What's up, everybody? I'm James. Welcome to Mechanical Mayhem, and welcome back to the Mechwarrior 5 Clan story-driven campaign playthrough, where you watch all the cutscenes, listen to the banter, and discuss what's going on in the lore of the campaign and just lore of the time for what we're doing. Stock mechs only. Hero mechs are allowed, but basically the omnipod sets the game provides are the only things we can make use of. And we are on Courchevel. Like I said in a prior episode, we are on Courchevel for a while. We just did inspection duty and we stopped some mysterious force from getting away with samples of our technology. Who they are, what's going on, and what else is up their sleeve, we do not yet know, but it seems like the hunt is on. So, strap yourselves in and prepare for drop. Alrighty, time for a little bit of Scrapyard.
Two Union dropships assigned to the merchant cast have gone missing. Their transponders went dark in transit from the system Zenith charge, shortly after deviating from their scheduled route.
How long have they been missing?
Around 2 weeks.
2 weeks? And we are just hearing about this?
The merchant cast attempted to handle this affair internally, as these ships were their responsibility. But after your recent encounter at the Jardin spaceport, they have wisely come forward to enlighten us on their failure to keep their house in order. It is now, once again, up to the warrior cast to clean up their mess.
Do we know if our mystery raiders are responsible for their disappearance?
That is exactly what I want you to find out. Demi-Presenter.
Our agents embedded in the local populace have received word of highly suspicious activity around a remote junkyard. Large work crews coming and going to the remote location at odd hours of the night.
Given the amount of scrap, orbital scans of the site are spotting at best. There are energy signatures we detect that certainly do not match the primitive technology the Cretans typically use. Cobalt Star, if there is a raider presence in the area, we do not wish to alert them. We believe we have found a pathway that allows us to advance on the site relatively unaware. We will investigate this energy signature. If they end up being one or both of our wayward dropships, ensure that they are secure. I have placed Garnet Star on standby to act as a reserve force if there is a raider presence on site. Any questions?
Neg, we will investigate.
Alrighty, so pretty impressive star, ready to go. We have one executioner being utilized. It is the hero configuration. Naomi pilots it, and we are going into the scrapyard. So we got a situation on our hands. We stopped that gazelle from taking off with Client Tech, but turns out Merchant Cast made a big whoops and lost 2 Union dropships. Now, I don't think there's some crazy conspiracy in which they let them go or did some underhanded dealings. I don't really think that. I think they honestly lost them, like had a problem, had them taken over or whatever. In any case, the warrior cast is not just a ruling cast of the clans, it's also the fighting and protective cast. So we are going in to investigate and recover, hopefully, our lost dropships. The reason why, as it was said, or will be said, I should say, that they didn't contact us sooner, is that they tried to handle it in-house because Smoke Jaguar has a pretty heavy-handed approach to dealing with failure, especially amongst all the casts, not just the warrior cast, right? Every clan's a little bit different in their dealings with their casts in their society, and some are stricter than others. Some have a bit of a different approach than others, and Smoke Jaguar has a pretty heavy hand when it comes to failure and discipline and things of that nature. So it kind of makes sense why they would be more prone to trying to figure it out in-house as opposed to coming to the warrior cast right away. The unfortunate circumstance, as we deal with this cataphract and we have a lot of other tonnage coming at us, is that Clan Tech is superior technology. So if they get their hands on our technology in any capacity, it's not good, right? It's going to be in any way, shape, or form an improvement for the inner sphere, which makes fighting them not like magically harder by a big margin or anything, but it is going to make fighting them have a bit more resistance, because right now, on top of the crazy training that the Trueborn warriors have and their genetic enhancements to a degree, the technology really helps in terms of packing a more better, as they say, punch against the enemy. But here we are, we're dealing with grasshoppers, and dragons will be here, and we have a Highlander assault mech to deal with, as well as Cataphract, and we're going to have some light mechs. It's a decent amount of stuff thrown at us in terms of tonnage. So the best thing I can say is, as always, maximize clan advantage in terms of technology. So we have Yuichi with us. As we saw in the cutscenes from the last video, he is now a member of the warrior caste. He has been adopted in as a freeborn warrior. This is something that clans will do with freeborns as well as trueborns. Certain clans do it in a much rarer or more open-ended way, and Smoke Jaguar is really, really particular about their warrior caste and has a very high, distaste for freeborn warriors and freeborn adversaries. So the fact that Yuichi is a freeborn warrior adopted into the clan's warrior caste is a pretty big deal, and also speaks to the need for warriors at the time, when they all went back to the clan homeworlds because of the death of Ilkhan Leo Showers. In any case, Yuichi is a pretty good pilot, pretty stacked in terms of the skills that he has at his disposal. He doesn't have maxed out evasion, so I will be holding off on giving him any upgrades until we get maxed out evasion for him. But anyways, that is why our star is whole again, because we did lose Liam, unfortunately. So after this little skirmish, we do have a repair bay, so one thing I can say is carefully kind of face tank for your star if you wish. That way you just make use of the repair bay yourself and everybody's pretty okay. That didn't necessarily work out for me. So instead, what I'm doing is going ahead and having one of my star mates use this repair bay. Now, I mistakenly called everybody back to me before Naomi could repair. So I kind of confused myself, and I went back towards this thing, and this is when I realized that while I was in scan mode, I left a scannable back there. So I said, okay, I'll just make Mia repair. Why not? So that's what I'm doing. I was going for Naomi initially because the Executioner has poor center torso armor. It's one of the reasons I'm not using it in this mission. And I will use it in future missions, but you'll notice that the center torso just seems to get armor blow through faster than the Warhawk. And it is. It's definitely less armor on the center torso than the Warhawk. You can look at it stat-wise. I get it when you look at the battle value stuff from the technical readouts and whatnot, but I do feel like the Executioner should be a little bit stouter in the center torso department personally. Like stock without, and we can't upgrade it anyway. So while I'm doing no custom builds, even if I was, I can't add any armor to the center torso in any of the Omnipod configurations. So I do feel like it could benefit from being just a little bit stouter of a center torso armor. And because as the player of the game, you are somewhat more aggressively targeted, depending upon the difficulty level and just kind of in general anyway, by the AI than your star mates. I wanted a bit beefier of a mech, hence the Warhawk. Plus, the Warhawk's also really good still, also. And it's one of my faves. So, with that said, we are progressing forward. We have Mia and Yuichi looking pretty good in terms of damage. And we're not looking too bad either. We're going to be A-okay. But right now we're just dealing with vehicle assets, some medium mechs and the like, and some other mechs to come as we push forward into the scrapyard. So we're basically looking for our wayward dropships, and the more we can deny our technology to the enemy, the better. Hence, why we want these dropships. It's why stopping that Gazelle was important in the first mission of this new arc on Courchevel, and it's also why the loss or defeat at Wolcott was an extra sting. Was the fact that they, were able to negotiate being given assets if Mechwarrior lost, right? And then did all of their deceit and their what's the word I'm looking for, and their springing of traps. There's a word that I can't remember because, of course, when I start talking, my vocabulary just takes a huge falling off. But anyways, we're progressing forward towards the scrapyard is the point here, to deny technology to the enemy. I don't know what's in the dropship. It doesn't matter. That's a whole other problem. I can almost guarantee there will be some mech assets in those dropships, but we just need to get the dropships first because the dropships are brimming with clan technology. So, truth be told, in dealing with an invasion like this, all the corridors are going to experience mechs that are destroyed, right? And depending upon the battle at hand, maybe, Ghost Bear takes a planet, but they lose a couple of battles in doing so. Like, you have multiple skirmishes going on in the world, and eventually they win, but they have taken some losses, which is only stands to reason. Given enough worlds being attacked, that would happen. You're gonna have the enemy being able to salvage some stuff, especially mercenary units, right? So anytime we're able to deny access to the enemy of our technology, the better. So just because they've gotten their hands on some because of Wolcott, for example, doesn't mean we can just not care about the enemy getting our technology, is what I'm getting at. So after a little jaunt down the valley, we go to another opening here with a lot of mechs, truth be told, to deal with. Dragon, champions, riflemen, we had assassins to deal with. So it's a pretty decent number of enemy mechs to deal with. Granted, honestly, outside of the dragon, I feel like the armor value, well, not armor value, but the mechs have kind of light armor that we're dealing with. Now, I got stuck in a weird situation with this dragon where it slowed down. I don't know why. I guess to avoid running into me, so I was able to kind of keep pace and walk backwards. And the Timberwolf is giving it justice with extra machine gun shots after it's destroyed, so take that. Anyways, the dragon has decent armor, but the rifleman, and I don't know about the champion. I do feel like the champion's is kind of a weird one, but the only thing that felt pretty heavily armored to me was the dragon and then the panther for its weight class. So the catapult's not bad either, but most of the stuff felt pretty light on the armored side, which is why I feel like they threw a bunch of them at us, because we could chew through that really quickly. This area is somewhat congested with rocks and buildings and the like, which will make sometimes leveraging our range advantage difficult, but we definitely can do so. And because there are these buildings and whatnot, it can block the enemy from shooting us with direct fire equipment, like this rifleman wasn't really shooting much at us at all because, well, buildings were in the way. So once you clear out the enemy, reinforcements are en route. As we saw, communications are spotty here. Perez was breaking up in comm chatter, and we were lucky enough to get Garnet Star brought in, since we're like, yo, there's definitely some raiders here. And that's going to be great because Garnet Star's help is going to be a massive boon in the strength department. Now, we have 2 more repair bays, and this is where I'm going to repair Ezra and myself. Naomi, I'm trying to keep in the back, and we've scanned some ammo crates, so she should be fine for most of the rest of the mission. She'll eventually run out of ammo, but it's okay. I am worried about the Executioner Center torso armor, but because we have Garnet Star here, and we're also kind of hanging back a bit. I feel like Naomi will be okay. So I didn't worry about repairing the Executioner. If there wasn't any ammo crates here to speak of, I would have repaired the Executioner because it has two LRM-20s and an LRM-15. I definitely want those to have ammunition. So, for as long as we can. So Ezra's talking to us on a private comms, just the two of us, about how Yuichi is doing. And it's at this point, especially, that Ezra starts to get on my nerves. Out of nowhere, he just starts feeling, after Liam's death, a bit whinier. Like, he's a true-born warrior, born and bred for this, right? And trained his whole life for this, and understands the clan ways. So the fact that Yuichi has to prove himself consistently, especially being a freeborn that we've adopted in, which hasn't happened in a long time, should not be any surprise and should not be viewed as unfair. It's the cultural way of the clans to prove yourself. Those with power, or those in power, need to prove that they can stay in power, more or less type of situation. And I don't know. Especially from this moment forward, Ezra just becomes kind of a whinier, in my opinion, to me. I definitely some valid points here and there. Don't get me wrong, but it also feels like Ezra just completely disregards the entirety of the life he's lived thus far. I'm not talking about indoctrination. I get that can be a problem. I'm just talking about in general, right? Anyways, as you saw, we have a direwolf on our side now with Garnet Star. Garnet Star has a Mad Dog, a Timberwolf, a Summoner, and I think it's a Hellbringer, and the direwolf, as I said. I don't remember the exact composition of all 5 mechs. I just know there's a direwolf, and that's all I care about because it's a direwolf and it's really good. So that alone is a massive force multiplier for our star, if you want to think of them in that capacity. The thing about Garnet Star is that they're not going to range ahead of you too far. So if you stand still, they're going to move to a point and then they're going to stop. Then they're going to move to a point and then they're going to stop. So as long as you're constantly moving, they're going to more or less move with you, but they're never going to continue moving forward. They're kind of, I don't know how to put it, but they're kind of meant to stick with you. So as you saw, there was a piece of a dropship there. It doesn't mean it's our dropship. This is a scrapyard after all. I just think it's really cool that this is a massive, massive place, right? If you think about it, we got spaceship scrap and mech scrap and other technology scrap here. We got a big, it looks like building, probably a processing place. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but it looks pretty cool. And I just like this aesthetic. I think it'd be a fun thing to make terrain out of in terms of building like terrain pieces for either the Battletech game or just for the fun of it. So the Highlander has jump jets. If you didn't know, that's why it is up there with other jump jet equipped mechs to kind of ambush us, in addition to other mechs that can't jump being on the ground waiting for the signal. But we took down one Highlander, there's another, and we have a direwolf, like I mentioned, so I'm not that concerned. I mean, I'm not just shrugging it off like it's nothing. There's still firepower coming at us, but given our star and Garnet Star together, we're going to be pretty okay in the firepower department. Now, one of the things I mentioned in an earlier episode is that as we move forward, things like turrets and vehicles become a bit more dangerous. You notice these VTOLs have quad AC2s. That's nothing to sneeze at. That can pick apart your armor pretty decently. You're going to see vehicles with a bunch of LRMs or SRMs or things of that nature. More stuff being more dangerous, more or less, is what I'm getting at. As we move forward, not just the tonnage of mechs thrown at us and their configurations. So while mechs will always kind of be the priority focus target because they can last the longest and can have the most stuff on them, don't forget about the vehicles because they can pick you apart, especially flyers. I find the flyers with quad AC2s can be quite dangerous to you. More what looks like dropship debris or debris, whatever you want to call it. And we're making good progress forward. So plenty of space in here, plenty of nooks and crannies in a massive scrapyard for mechs to be set up in position, and they definitely are. To me, this speaks of more than just your commonplace raiders or bandits. They definitely have seasoning to them in terms of like force disposition and tactics and layout. They feel more grizzled than your typical raider trying to take advantage of the situation. So we'll have to stay informed on who exactly we're dealing with and figure that out, right? Because right now we just don't know. All we know is that they're in our way, and we dealt with the militia. This world should be compliant, but we're dealing with fighters, so let's take them out. As you can see, some elements of Garnet Star are kind of slow and won't really move at full speed. So we could easily range ahead. And right now I'm actually kind of quite far ahead of the entirety of the situation. So slowing down is not a bad idea. I definitely recommend maximizing your range, slowing down a little bit, and letting Garnet Star kind of be a screening force as you move. Or at least be something you can quickly kind of get behind and let them take some hits. We don't want them to be destroyed. We want to use their firepower whenever we can. But also at the same time, we don't want to take crazy amounts of damage ourselves, because we have the whole mission to go through. So if we can spread the load, as it were, of damage with Garnet Star, then so be it. But as you can see on the radar there, on our sensors, whatever you want to call it, they're moving with us. The direwolf's going to take the longest, it's the slowest. We don't need to necessarily wait for everybody, but we don't want to be so far outranging them, because while they do have mechs that are faster than us, they kind of program this mission to stick with us until they get to certain points in which they're going to range forward to attack. So a lot more scrap in amongst this mountainous area. Just something we haven't seen before on this planet. What also is cool is that we heard earlier that Courchevel was, up until recently, kind of a backwater planet for the Draconis Combine, right? It wasn't something they put a big emphasis on, I believe is what they said earlier, or we're going to hear it later too. I think it was kind of implied earlier by giving you the setup for Razzlehag a little bit when they mentioned that in one of the comm chatter things pre-mission. But we're definitely going to be told to us that this was a backwater world. So a little bit of forward information for you, but it kind of explains a massive scrapyard like this, right? You know, in a highly civilized world, you could say, or a prime key candidate style of primary important world, it's not that you don't have scrapyards, but I feel like it's dealt with more efficiently. It's in a better care. You don't just have kind of a haphazard junk mountainous area, if you will. But in backwater worlds, things just kind of go as they do, and it definitely makes a lot more sense that we would have places like this. And would you look at that? There's one of our dropships. So clearly they're making use of it. Whether they plan to use it to get out of here, smuggle stuff through, break it down, I don't really know. But it's here, and it's being defended. So we need to deal with it. The direwolf will eventually show up to the party and be useful, so it's not like it's just lost on us. But right now we just kind of want to utilize our range, force the enemy to close in on us, which will also allow Garnet Star to kind of bring up the front and act like the quasi-pincer in terms of getting closer to the enemy for us. Especially once we destroy this Marauder and these forces in front of us. One of my arms has lost its armor. It had an armor blow through, you could say, and it's into structure damage. So I am definitely taking a little bit more of a cautionary movement pattern for myself to try and make sure my star range is ahead of me and that Garnet Star moves forward. You can see they were holding here because I feel like there's some type of invisible, I guess you could say, trigger for the next section. So they were holding right before that until we got close enough for them to continue moving forward and basically trigger it where their movement is now no longer based on our movement. This is the final area. So now they're no longer kind of linked to our star, if you will. Now they're completely free form to move and attack how they want, which works for me because they're going to range forward, which means my star can kind of hang back and we can do our thing at range. So one thing that is, I think pretty neat about this area is that it's not boxed in completely. We walked into here literally, but is the kind of cut off nature of it. It feels similar because we have the similar aesthetics of the mountain range and whatnot to what we see all across Courchevel, but I like that it's just a wholly unique area, like I've been saying. Watch out for your star. They love to walk in front of your shots. So really all we need to do now is clear out the enemies defending this dropship and secure the dropship for ourselves. Unfortunately, this means dealing with the dropship subsystems, and this is clan tech. This is why it has a bit of a different subsystem setup than the Union that we dealt with on, in Edo, for example, because this is a clan dropship with clan tech on it. The mechs are all inner sphere, but the dropship is one of the more dangerous things. I mean, the Atlas is dangerous, don't get me wrong, but the weapons on this dropship are actually kind of dangerous given what they are. What I like to try and do is clear out some subsystems really quick, then focus on the mech with my star, and then kind of assist accordingly, and try to thin down more of these subsystems. The nice thing is, the stuff on one side of the dropship can't see us, so it can't hit us. So if we can kind of just hang out here and take down mechs, have our coolant kind of catch up with our shooting, and finish things off and move forward. Remember, Garnet Star is here to support us, and they're doing a great job of taking damage for us and dishing out damage, don't get me wrong. So this is only one dropship, which means we still have more to go, and we have to figure out the contents and everything else. Plus, we don't know who we're fighting against. They just seem more organized than pirates or raiders, so we don't know if it's ISF. We don't know who they are. We just know that they are in our way and need to be stopped. This can be a mission where you take some pretty decent damage. There's just a lot going on. 3 repair bays, which are nice, but or repair facility things, which are nice, but obviously that doesn't map up to a full star. And we got to deal with the dropship at the end of it. So it's a lot, right? Luckily, we have support, so that's really helpful. By this juncture, between your research and having repair technicians and whatnot, you should be pretty A-okay. And as we saw there, the Executioner has taken some damage into the center torso structure. I think from the back, actually. I think its front armor was holding, but actually got a blow through from behind, meaning something got behind it and it did some damage. But it's still holding. But it's just one of those things where, I did repair, but outside of just being a little bit too aggressive, the center torso, which is really important, is fine. And I hang back, I did the hanging of the backing to keep my arms because that's where all my firepower is. But with this last subsystem destroyed, we have taken down the enemy. We have secured this dropship. Hopefully we can get a message out so they can send crews to recover this and do whatever else, and we can move on with figuring out what's going on here, who we're facing, and just what is going on, because, who's stealing this stuff or attempting to, we don't know. They're talking about it. It's plausible that one of the dropships was scrapped. I honestly can't remember if we learn more about the second dropship or not, but we got one, and that's important. And if we're able to just take out the enemies here, then any scrapping they did, as long as we can take them out before they leave, won't matter, aside from the fact that they took apart a perfectly useful dropship, right? So there's that. But yeah, that's the mission. I enjoyed running through the scrapyard. I like the location. I like the aesthetics of it. It really feels like you're walking amongst ruins of dropships and other ships and even mechs and other components. And it works out rather effectively, I think, anyway. So with that said, that's the mission. We did a pretty good job. We want to build up our salvage, of course. Now, I'm not being the most stellar at trying to figure out what I'm doing when it comes to salvage. I just try to build it up as much as possible. So, we're getting decent research going on. We're not finishing off as much research in one go, in one mission as we used to, because we're doing level 2 and level 3 research. So, we're reaching the point now that all the research queue is basically done. So all of our research potential is really allowing us to blow through any active research, and we don't have much active research in the queue. So towards the end, you're gonna be reaching a state where you're gonna not have much research because you don't have the components and you've researched everything. So that's nice, and that's why I like going for it hard in the beginning. It pays off in the end like this. Still saving up Yuichi's experience for Evasion 5, and then we just fill out the rest accordingly. I like the Executioner. I wish it was a little bit stouter in the center torso department. Be interesting to see if we get any new Omnipod sets in the future for it. Maybe one that lets us put some armor in there for custom builds. That'd be pretty sweet. Other than that, though, we pretty much have concluded this mission. We're going to beef up our star however we can, and we're going to go on to the next one. So we have a whole mission now, and that is to deal with this threat before the invasion fleet arrives, and that way we have no delays for the invasion proper. And that's the plan of attack. Thanks so much for sticking in here and tuning in and sticking throughout. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Hit that subscribe button if you feel so inclined to do so. And until next time, take care.